All right, folks, tonight is Tuesday, July 11th, and I hereby call to order the Raymore Arts Commission. May I please have a roll call, Mike?
Commissioner Barry.
Present.
Commissioner Paris.
Present.
Commissioner Setzer.
Present.
Commissioner Ditchin.
Present.
Commissioner Jones.
Present.
Okay, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
I don't think we have any public comments, but we do have one presentation tonight, and Nathan Mustine from, am I pronouncing your last name correct? Mustine, from our Parks and Rec Department. If you'll step forward and give your presentation tonight.
Thank you very much. As Sharon stated, my name is Nathan Mustine. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation, and wanted to come tonight. I had an idea on behalf of the tree board and through the park board as well, and I wanted to present this idea to you guys tonight, especially on the eve of our signed agreement with the MOU. We thought that this would be an excellent opportunity to kind of see how that plays out and work that process. One of the things that we do in Raymore is we have a legacy program where we have honor bricks, memorial tribute trees, memorial benches. Something that the tree board identified was a plaque, where I know many of you have seen it. I've passed out pictures where, you know, some type of a plaque that's in a prominent location and the leaves indicate where the trees are. And we began looking at that. We kind of put that off until the new facility Centerview was finished, and we wanted to put that in our permanent location for the Parks and Rec office. As I began researching these and what we were looking at, what I found is this particular model is something that we're very interested in. We like the idea, the concept of it, but in purchasing one of these things outright, it's nearly $10,000, and frankly, I don't have that. I have $10,000 to build an entire arboretum, and just talking with Mike and a couple members of the tree board, we thought this might be a good opportunity to enlist your services, see if there's a local artist out there that might be able to help us create something. I think it would be a neat feature to have in Centerview, something that's locally made, something that's part of our legacy program. It involves the park board, the tree board, the arts commission. It just seems like a good idea to investigate. I don't know in the end if we can still afford it. I don't know if there's something that you as an Arts Commission would like to partner with us in helping fund something like this. We may find out that it's just really not feasible and we need to reroute our plan, but it was at this stage in this program, it was worth the effort to bring it forward, leave it at your plate, let you guys discuss it. I can always come back anytime and go forth. Clearly, you know, we can work on a staff level between Mike and I, if that's something that you would like. But the picture, the first page is an idea of what we want, and if you read that, the main trunk is just carved wood, and the rest is just copper or metal. I can't see that it would be that difficult to do. It's just finding the right person to do it for us. The second page is the wall located within Centerview. It's on one of the interior walls of a vestibule as you're exiting towards the patio. So it would be something kind of prominent. You would see it. It would attract attention. It would be also a promotional piece for the legacy program. And we just felt like that's a good space. And really, I'm just here to kind of present the idea to you guys. And at that point, just let you talk about it. And if it's something that you're not interested in, that is fine. I mean, we can move forward and we'll keep looking, and if it's something that we can't do, we can't do, but it was worth the effort, and it was an idea worthy of bringing forward. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have it.
Nathan, was your idea to actually do a 3D type of presentation on that wall, or were you thinking maybe a mural of some kind with, painted in memory, or, painted in names, or did you have a specific type? You want something like what's on the first page?
I would prefer more of a 3D image, something that's carved and placed on the wall. That way we can remove it if we ever need to paint or do anything. If it's a mural or something that's into the wall, if something's damaged or an event happens and something, you kind of lose that and you're starting over. Clearly, if something happens to this, we have to start over as well. But if it's created once, it can be recreated in that term. So we felt like this is just more of that artistic piece that really stands out and pops inside.
And your idea of a tree is in keeping with the theme of the Arboretum and the tree, the sculpture out back.
Well, that's just kind of icing on the cake, frankly. This was going to happen for the tribute tree within the legacy program itself. Okay. The fact that the sculpture was placed in there, I mean, that really kind of solidified the idea of the themes coming together. This is a good spot for it, so it does make sense. And
what is your opinion about the role that the commission might play in this, other than maybe helping select an artist? Is that primarily the role you would see?
Ideally, that is my primary reason for being here, is seeing if you can assist us in finding somebody to create this for us.
So not only selecting, but finding someone, reaching out to artists, local, that's what we need. Okay.
I'm kind of new to this. Can we just really quickly explain the legacy program, just
Sure.
so I'm kind of understand what
Yeah,
this
the
is?
legacy program I started a little over a year ago. There's different tiers. The first tier is called Honor Bricks, and at our Hannah Station Park, the Honor Bricks are where you can, it doesn't have to be necessarily military or service oriented. It can just be in memory of or a dedication to. We had some do graduates, in 2017 graduates. So the Honor Brick is over there. The tribute trees are living memorials for all intents and purposes that there's a list that you can pick from what you want, and then we help designate a location in the park that we feel is the best location for that particular species to thrive. This is what would dedicate those trees, because you don't always see them out there, but you can walk in and you can see people who have done that. And then, yeah, once purchased and planted, the leaves, we would take the leaf off, engrave it, and then put it back on. And then there would be a map that would also correlate with that, so you could see that and then walk to the office and say, hey, I want to see this tree with Nathan's name on there. We're like, sure, we can pull that up. Then just to wrap that up, on the legacy program, we do memorial benches, which we have 2 that are currently in. And then if you're really big and you got the money to spend, we'll let you build us a shelter and we'll put your name on that too. Haven't had any takers on that yet.
Are there any other questions for Nathan? Anybody?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bob.
Yeah, just a couple. Are you looking for someone primarily working with wood and who can then incorporate that, or do you want them to also create the leaves for you guys, or do you guys have that?
At this point, I am turnkey and open to suggestions.
Okay.
Because $10,000 for that wasn't really on my radar.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, one last question.
Sure.
And I'm just noticing this in this particular photo, that you have a few birds mixed in as,
Yeah.
Are you looking for something like that, or maybe a 2-tier, this is someone who's donated 5 trees, they get the bird, or?
Right, no, this is really just kind of an example of the website. This particular tree was put up at a church as a fundraiser for a donation for a building, and the doves were just kind of a Christian symbol that they had within their church. Gotcha. What we're really looking for is the trunk, the structure, the leaves, the things on the bottom. Those, within this donation, they're larger sums of money. What we could potentially do if we chose to, that could be the benches or something different that would also have that internal significance. But the benches, technically in the parks, they have their own plaque So I would prefer it just kind of stay separate and this be the tree. So really what we're looking for is the trunk, the branches, and the leaves is most of it.
And Nathan, one final question. So you're looking for our commission to say, we think this is a great idea, we're willing to work with you to build this program, to design and bring a tree to that wall. Are you looking for us to figure out how to fund the project as well, or?
That's an excellent question. More than not, I'm looking for your guidance, as this is your field, this is where you guys excel. You know, you have the resources, you have the people, and you have the process of doing that. I would very much anticipate myself being included as we go forth, if we find somebody in that design process, to make sure it's what I'm comfortable with putting in our facility. But at the same time, I have to also recognize the fact that I have to take that before a tree board. And then the tree board has to take that before the park board, because the council has designated those funds for the Arboretum in that. So if the Arts Commission chooses to designate some funds to help make it, you know, if this comes back and it's really more than we can do, but if we partner and that's something, you know, that's up to this commission. I'm not asking for that. That is at your discretion. We are asking for basically your professional guidance on how to get something like this at a much lower cost with, I think, a unique feel that it's somebody local who did it, so that we can put something right there below it saying commissioned by, you know, or created by, and just one more little unique feature that building already has.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And one more thing, there is no time frame on this. I mean, this isn't something that we're looking to get done. If this takes a while, it takes a while, because I understand that this is unique and it may not be something we can just find somebody like that. So there's really no time frame. I mean, we would like to have something at least in the works towards the end of this calendar year, to at least know that by next spring or next summer, something is in place when the Arboretum's open, and that can kind of flow in conjunction with the grand opening of an Arboretum.
And when is that proposed for?
Right now, the initial time frame is May, June of next year, where most of the work, the signage, the infrastructure of the Arboretum at Memorial Park takes place this fall and through the winter, where we can do kind of a grand opening in late spring when everything's blooming and it's really pretty. That's kind of the time frame.
Okay. If there's no more questions, very much we appreciate your
Right.
comments, and we'll give it some consideration, so thank you, Nathan.
All right, thank you guys for your time, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, Mike or Melissa, I'm not sure who's doing the staff reports, but if you'll please start.
So the only staff report we have tonight is about an update on the Arts in the Parks MOU. As Nathan talked about, the council last night gave its final unanimous approval to the MOU between the park board and the council themselves. And so we now have a framework in place to begin placing art in the parks. And we'll see later in the work plan some of those areas that have already been identified by Parks Department as well as the Arts Commission as priority areas that we would like to work on, and the locations and type of art that'll be going in those areas. So kind of excited to start talking about the work plan for the coming fiscal year, so we can start talking about those specific pieces of art that we might be able to begin purchasing or putting out calls for artists.
Okay, thanks. If there's no further staff reports, we'll go on to committee updates. And who's giving the public arts update?
I'd be glad to.
Thank you, Pat.
Public Arts Committee met and discussed, we looked at art from Linda Wonder, and we're very impressed with her work and her application. We examined the work and voted to offer her a place to display her work for the next 3 months. Is it? Yes. And I believe it could go up tomorrow. Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Has she delivered her work, or are you going to make a call to her to?
She has, and I brought tonight, there are 3 pieces sample of her work at the back of the room. And then the rest of our artwork is here, locked up. And so we'll begin displaying that or put that up in the chamber here tomorrow.
Okay, and will there be a presentation to the council like we've done in the past? Or-
Correct. Not the coming Monday, but the following Monday at the regular council meeting, we'll have a presentation.
Okay. Any other updates?
We also discussed meeting times and projects, and you'll see later in the projects, the committees, what we've got scheduled coming. We also had a brief talk. We knew that Nathan would be coming in, and that perhaps his project, his proposal would be one that would be well-suited for the Public Art Committee to take a look at and do some research on and report back to the commission with our findings on that.
Good. That was one of the things I was going to address later on, was whether or not the Public Arts Commission or committee wanted to take on that role. So thank you for doing some upfront work on that. Thank you. Bob, did you have any comments? Okay. The next committee update is the Education Event Working Group, which is new. I invited our 2 new commissioners to join that working group, and they both agreed to do that, and I thank them very much for that. And if one of you, it doesn't matter which one, if or both, want to just make a few comments about some of the ideas that we talked about, and possibly just mention briefly the one, idea for the fall. So
We met and discussed several options of events that we thought would be good with the community. I think the one that we stuck with the most would be a kind of a back-to-school parents' night out. You survived the summer. One of the sip and paint parties, like similar to what we had with the big class, and following along with the instructor. Only we would be hiring a mobile bartender as well. I think we decided to cap it at 30 and determine the price per person kind of based on what the costs would be for event space and materials and instructor and bartender and all of that. But I think that is the event that we are hoping early fall would be kind of the time we want to shoot for on that. Anything to add to that?
Yeah, we also discussed Family Art Days. How do we continue to engage and grow that program? Some different ideas to bring kids in and do, just some fun art. And we kind of really discussed a lot about just getting the information out to the people and how the best ways to go about that, whether it's social media, flyers, mailers, those type of things, just to kind of really engage our neighborhoods and our communities, just to get them out more. So.
thank you. We'll be having monthly meetings. Our focus this year for the remainder of the year is really to have maybe the fall event and then maybe something closer to the holidays for children, and then really start seriously thinking about how we do the programs for next year, how often, reach out and try and find new sources, new teachers. So they have a lot of work to do. We'd like to continue the Family Art Day. I think it's very important, but given, the logistics of what's going to happen to Park House and, whether we can use Centerview. So there's a lot of thought process that has to go on in that working group. But I thank them for being so excited to work on that, and we'll keep everybody updated. Thank you. With that, if there's no more committee updates, we'll go on to the consent agenda. And tonight we have the minutes from the June 13th meeting. May I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
A second?
Second?
Okay, were there any comments or corrections or additions to those minutes from anyone? Okay. All those approving the minutes, please raise your hand. Okay, that's a unanimous vote to approve the minutes, and that concludes our consent agenda for tonight. Do we have any old business? All right, no old business. Our new business, and I know Mike's excited to talk about the work plan. So with that, we'll go ahead and start in on that.
Thank you. So before you, you have, or in your packet, you had actually two versions of the work plan. The 2017 work plan is the one that we are currently in and working through, and I have attempted to update as best I could all of the projects that we had either already accomplished or that we have underway. And so this is the same work plan that you've seen in your packet in the last few months, and that we continue to work from. And so if you have any questions about that, I wanted to just point that out and keep it in the packet, but I won't talk too extensively about it tonight, except for to reference it when I talk about next year's plan. The ultimate goal tonight is to get the commission and the commission members thinking about the projects and the activities that we as an or as a group would like to start taking on in the next fiscal year. So for some of our new commission members, or just as a kind of a refresher, our fiscal year will end on October 31st, and we'll start a new fiscal year November 1. About 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half, we held a number of community conversations specifically for arts programming in the community, and we held those, a couple of the conversations and strategic planning sessions here at City Hall. And from those, we developed a few strategic focus areas or strategies, which is what really guides this work plan. It's divided up into 3 different strategies, and the main strategies really are to increase the amount of public art in Raymore, to increase the resources for the arts by broadening and diversifying the base of public and private funding sources, and to continue the support of existing community arts-related programs and provide incentives to incorporate additional artistic elements. All of the projects that we'll be talking about in the coming year really fall within one of those 3 focus areas. And what I would really like for the commission members to undertake in tonight is really just to drive some discussion so that we could approve in our August meeting the actual work plan itself. And so tonight really is just kind of a quick overview, an update of some of the changes, a chance for you all to discuss among yourselves, and as well as to ask questions of staff. And then we won't actually vote or approve until the next meeting. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of items. The first one under Strategy 1, Project 1, Implementation of the Public Art Plan. This goes back to the MOU that was approved by City Council last night, as well as the work that has already been done by the Public Art Committee in developing those key areas, those areas in the parks, developing areas that are within city grounds where we want to place art. And so based on that art plan that had been adopted in 2016, we're looking to kind of allocate another $5,000 towards either the purchase or the commissioning of an art piece that would fall within that public art plan. Either the first 2 art pieces, I believe, are either a piece of sculpture within the Arboretum or a mural on the side of the concession stand at Memorial Park. Obviously, as opportunities come up, we can move up and down that priority list, but those really were the first 2 at the top of that list as decided by the commission previously. And so wanted to keep kind of the work plan moving in that direction. The next one is to expand the 2017 pop-up art project. We kept this allocated at $2,000, just the same as we did this year. I know there's been some discussion about possibly changing or doing something different. Again, as everything is up for discussion, would definitely like to hear any of the ideas that we would have moving forward. Project 3 is to continue the City Council art exhibit program. This one most likely will be changing slightly, as we will need to also incorporate Centerview into that. And there is the question of the tinting the glass that will need to come first before we really begin opening that up to gallery space. There are other spots within Centerview, and even as part of Nathan's discussion tonight, we heard that we could see the commission involved in the creation or placement of artwork at Centerview in other areas, and so we may still be involved in other ways. Under Strategy 2, most of this is really at no cost and mostly is a continuation of some of the projects that we've had going on already. Project 2 and Project 3 are 2 that are going to really we're going to start to see a little bit more action on in the next few months as we get closer to establishing the foundation or establishing an organization, endowment or foundation for the city that would include a budget line or a sub-budget that would allow for donations to specific art projects or to the Arts Commission. And so as we begin to work a little closer with some folks who maybe are interested in donating to the arts or donating specific pieces of art, by having that foundation, we'll be able to really be a little more flexible in kind of funding sources for works of art. And so that project too will kind of take off a little bit more as that comes to fruition. Same thing with Project 3. Some of the grants that we started identifying and looking at required a 501c3 status, which the city did not have. And so the hope is with the creation of the foundation and that, an updating of that status, we'd be eligible for more grants and therefore could have kind of a wider net to cast in that area.
Mike, can we interrupt as we have questions?
Absolutely.
Okay. For the benefit of the commissioners, can you just give kind of an update on where the foundation research is right now and what your thought is about when this might be in place?
We are currently looking at the use of an existing 501c3 that the city has used in the past for public improvement projects. The organization is called RAMAC and has been used in the past for sewer and street projects. What we're looking at right now and kind of investigating is whether or not we can amend some of the bylaws, or the city council can amend some of the bylaws in order for that organization to then accept donations to benefit things like the Arts Commission and its projects, the Parks and Recreation Department and its capital projects, as well as possibly the Police Department and any project that they might have. We have seen in the past that folks want to donate items to the police department, but we don't really have a vehicle or a venue to do that. And so we wanted to be able to be as encompassing as possible with all city departments, and so that's kind of what we're looking at right now. A couple of hurdles that we have to overcome. First, one, we have to ensure that as the 501c3 was initially established for public projects like streets and sewers, that we can truly amend it to ensure that it could be transitioned into accepting donations on behalf of the Arts Commission, the Parks Department, and any other department that would want to, would be interested. At the same time, we also need to make sure, because staff will be the ones supporting this and reporting out, that our finance department would not be, say, overburdened by some of the reporting requirements. And so we're still kind of working with them to make sure that they have everything that they need and would be able to support this moving forward. We have received some positive feedback already from staff and from some of the council members, and so this is kind of the area we've been looking at with most interest. We had looked at in the past using an outside group like the Truman Heartland Foundation, but we found that to start up a new endowment or kind of an account with them, the price was a little steep, and keeping kind of the interested control and to allow for that to truly be something that we could use for city project, Arts Commission projects or parks projects, wasn't going to be as clear cut as we thought. And so there were a few extra hurdles there, but we're looking at bringing something to the city council to consider sometime in August. And so it'll be before them, just so that we can lay the initial groundwork, and then we'll be back before the Arts Commission to hopefully kick off Project 2, so that we can talk about how does the Arts Commission want to move forward in the way of marketing, or do we want to actually kick something off in this first year, or do we want to wait until FY18? Technically, Project 2 is included in this current fiscal year as well, and so we don't have any money allocated toward it, but it is something that we had said we wanted to accomplish, and so we're still something that we could do, but again, I included it in FY18 just so that we can make sure that we cover into the fall and winter. Under Strategy 3, the projects kind of are a continuation of some of the items that we have been already doing in this current fiscal year. And so we'll see the continuation of sponsorship of performances at the Parks and Recreation Farmers Market, see the continuation of the Arts Commission's involvement with the Tri-County Art League Student Art Contest, as well as any promotion and awareness through the Raymore Festival in the Park Parade. And I know that may also be changing as well, and so definitely entertain any discussion from there. Project 4, we're going to probably see a bit of a change in the way we move forward with how we identify artists, but we still wanted to at least put something aside just as kind of a contingency. So if we wanted to do the paint and sip class, that we would have something set aside and prepared just in case, especially if we're moving forward with more kind of one-time, bigger event classes. We would definitely want to have something allocated and set aside. Summer Scene, of course, is the big event that we currently have right now. We continued that line item and wanted to make sure that that would move forward. Some of the dates in here we do need to update, and so that'll be one item that I'll change moving forward between now and August, but just wanted to let you know that Summer Scene is definitely on our radar, and we are looking forward to big things from Melissa in the coming year. And then the next project, Project 6, is a new one. We've gotten to a point where I think we are a large enough group and we have enough folks interested that it would be a good step to begin developing some sort of a social media presence, not just for the Arts Commission, but for artists and folks within kind of the creative community in Raymore as a whole. And so I would like to see the Arts Commission sort of lead this effort, and I think it would be great for us, whether it is an Arts Commission specific page that shares information about all things going on in Raymore, especially items that we would be sponsoring and that the city would be sponsoring, as well as anything else that may be going on regionally. This is one project that I think, certainly as it was kind of brought up is a good idea, and so wanted to include it as a project, and definitely would love to hear any more discussion on that. The next page is the work plan's budget overview. We have currently made a request to the City Council for $20,000, as we have in the past, for the annual budget for the Arts Commission. With all of the projects that are included in the FY18 draft plan currently, that brings us to about $18,000 allocated. And so there are certainly areas where we could either increase some of our funding, or if you notice on the next page, there are some project ideas that have been discussed either through the Public Arts Committee, through just some general discussion with Arts Commission members, ideas and projects that I've not yet gotten a chance to fully price out or put any kind of financial number to. But it is certainly ideas that I think are worth exploring. And so I wanted to present all of the ideas that I've received as unfunded ideas, or areas that we could begin looking into and include in that work plan. And if we decided we wanted to put some money behind it, that could bring us up to that $20,000 very easily. And then the last part of this, the overall plan, is the Parks and Trails Public Art Plan overview. And this includes all the priority areas as identified by the Public Art Committee for placement of art in the parks. This really is going to be the driving document for what I believe the Arts Commission will be putting funding behind when it comes to placing new pieces of art, acquiring new pieces of art, or even commissioning new pieces of art. And so definitely I wanted to include it as part of the overall work plan for this group, so that you all kind of have an idea of when staff is sitting here talking about, well, we want to commission a mural or we want to purchase a sculpture, you kind of have an idea and can reference back to, well, this is where that area, this is that park area that we have in mind currently. All of this, of course, is up for discussion and can be changed. And moving forward, the plan is we would have any discussion, comments, questions tonight. Want to give you plenty of time, which is why introduced it, discuss it tonight. Won't bring it back up until our August meeting for an official vote. But again, we can definitely start any kind of conversation here tonight.
Well, thank you for that presentation, Mike. I know this is a lot to digest in this short period of time, especially for our new commissioners. But right off the bat, if there's anyone who has specific questions for Mike and any of the information that you saw, please feel free to speak up. Any comments at all?
I've got a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lauren?
Normally, how do you guys go about soliciting information to get art brought in?
For, like with the call for artists?
Yeah.
Typically, we handle that similar to a request for qualifications. So not quite a public bid process. We would put out a scope of work. We'd put out kind of a general cover letter, and then we include what budget target we have. Then, publicly posted, make sure that we get it in front of the right folks. I think what we may benefit from in the coming year, hopefully, now having gone through the process twice with artwork here at Centerview and the artwork at 58 and Dean, is we may now see some folks who recognize that as a city we are committed to moving forward with truly creative, unique pieces of art. And so we may see an increase in some of those, in that call for artists callback. But at the same time, I don't necessarily want to count chickens before they hatch. And so my plan is we still would have a pretty aggressive marketing plan, make sure that this gets in front of not just local folks, but some of our regional arts groups so that they know that this is something that we're looking for.
Thank you.
On the social media, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, did you have any thoughts on how to implement that? Who would be the administrators? How the information would be chosen that would be added to the feeds?
Mm-hmm. So currently the way we have our current 5, and I'll reference Facebook, but I certainly am open to any and all venues or any all the platforms. Facebook, we have found, has been really our most successful venue. People tend to engage there more with the city, but that may just be because that's kind of my wheelhouse. That's what I can go to, as well as with our Melissa here as well. What I would probably recommend, just right out of the gate, is the creation of a standard Facebook page for the Arts Commission. My recommendation would also be that myself and Melissa remain as administrators, but would encourage any and all of the commission members to be contributors to that. Would like to see you all have a hand in some of that content curation and the creation of pieces, much like our current system where Melissa and I are administrators on all of the accounts, but we rely on some of our staff members. The animal shelter relies on our animal control officer to create content. The police department is mostly by myself and Melissa, but then we have Parks Department is fed through some of the park staff. Emergency management is done by our emergency management director, and so on. Would not be out of the norm to have you all have a hand in creating some of that content as well.
That's an easy setup, right? If we wanted to do something like next month or in a couple weeks, it's just setting up that page, and any of the commissioners who might have input could give it to you or Melissa and have it posted.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Is that how you would want us to communicate that, with just via email?
Yes, that would be ideal, yeah.
Any feedback from any of the commissioners on having a separate Facebook page?
Yeah, I do have a quick question. You would want us to be active on this site. Would you want us to have a different profile, Commissioner Berry, or do you want just Bob Berry and all his baggage that comes with it when he hits that and somebody?
I think setting it up as a page, if you were to be selected or request to be one of the contributors, you would be logging on through your personal account, but when you post to the page, you would be posting as the Arts Commission Facebook page, right? So you wouldn't necessarily be Bob Berry, Commissioner Berry, it would be the Arts Commission. And it would just kind of be that generic term, unlike a group where if you were to create this group like the Raymore Residents Community Group, it's kind of in every individual that post is represented.
Well, I think we should do that. I mean, and certainly, I am not, I'm not the world's best Facebook user, but if I wanted to contribute, I would be more than happy to help do some of that. And I'm sure every commissioner, if you have some great thoughts, so I think that's a great idea, so.
Yeah, I think Facebook's the safe choice to start with, and then see how it goes and branch out. I mean, there's Snapchat. I mean, the possibilities are pretty endless, but I think Facebook's a safe bet to at least start with and branch off from there.
Can you,
Bob?
Yeah, can you provide us with anyone who you'd want to help contribute certain guidelines on how to respond? I'm sure there could be times where
Absolutely.
people are pretty critical, and we want to make sure we don't say, oh, yeah.
There absolutely would be more than happy to provide any best practices, kind of guidelines. At the end of the day, this would be something that would be staff, I don't want to say driven, because I would really like to see the commission members drive a lot of the content, but if things were to get to a point where someone was being critical or we were getting into more of a public relations issue, I would very quickly step in and be more than happy to do that.
Thank you. Do any of you have any other questions about any other portion of the work plan, the proposed work plan, or the proposed budget? I guess, though, the work plan is the critical thing here because budget is driven by what the work plan says, so. Any other comments? Questions? Bob?
And I know we have one that's going to probably go away this fall and the following fall, and whether it's allocated back into a presence at the Festival in the Park or elsewhere. Mike and I have already talked about that.
Thank you. All right, if there's no other comments or questions, I would ask that each of you take this home and put it by your bedstand and read through it. Don't hesitate to email either Melissa or Mike with questions if you see something after tonight, comments, because we really do want to get this, we need to get this approved by August. So, again, if you have any concerns, you can copy me as well.
I have a quick question.
Oh, Bob?
Mike, you're looking for basically a vote next time on what strategy we want to take? Is this what you're looking for?
I would look for a vote on the overall work plan. Every strategy and project currently in the purple draft work plan, it coincides with a project on that budget line as well. And so as long as we approve the work plan as a whole, so there's no need to select a strategy or strategy 2 or 3, as long as we adopt the entire work plan, then we'll have the budget approved as well as a separate item. What I would really look for in August is a kind of checklist of items that after some discussion, I'd like to see strategy 1, project 3 removed. I would like to see strategy 2, project 6, I'd like $500 included in that. And then we can kind of go through that process that evening, and once we get to the very final end of it, we can say, okay, take a vote, and is this the project plan or the work plan and budget moving forward after November 1st?
Okay.
Mike, would it be helpful, or is it correct procedure to, if we as commissioners want to give you input, you provide an updated draft for us to review prior to the meeting, or do we need to do that during the meeting?
What I would most likely do is if I were to receive an email from an individual commission member saying, I would like to see an additional $1,000 added to, say, summer scene, I would include that as kind of an amendment sheet, and I would include that in the work plan. And so we would have the overall presented work plan, and then I would make, as part of my presentation in August, would just like to update the commission that an idea has been floated, and then you can either, vote on the individual ideas as they get included in the work plan, or we could vote on the work plan and include amendments after the fact.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else, Mike, with regard to the work plan?
Nothing more?
Okay. I've kind of lost my place where we are here. Is there any other new business? Page 2. To move up here fast enough. Okay. Oh, you covered the budget too, so we're all set on the new business.
There is one item that I meant to cover in staff report, if you don't mind. For our August meeting, along with the work plan, we'll also be approving, we'll be taking nominations for the chair and vice chair, as well as approving and voting on the meeting schedule for the next fiscal year. So from November to, or from essentially August to August of this coming year. So we'll also, at the same time that night, we'll be doing the full commission photo, if possible. So we would like everyone to be here if possible, and we will take that photo as well.
Okay, so it's important that we're all there, all here. Are we all here? Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, if there's no further discussion for new business, do any of the commissioners have any food for thought or comments, questions before we adjourn?
I had a quick question. For the money that's left over from this year's budget, does it have to be spent by the 31st? Or can we have, like, can we pay for it in October and plan the event in December?
Mike, would you address that, please?
That is a great question. We do have to have the money spent by October 31st. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the event can't be held in November or December. The problem is there needs to be, and there's a financial term, and I'm sort of blanking on it right now. There needs to be some sort of an encumbrance of that money before October 31st.
I think it's an accrual.
And so it needs to be spent, essentially. Whether it's we've paid the vendor ahead of time, or we've already purchased supplies, but for an event later, that certainly would work. But what we can't do is roll that money over from October into December to hold on to it and then pay bills in December.
Right, yeah, I think what we were concerned with was the Family Arts Day that we had discussed, possibly doing Christmas decorations or ornaments. We would need to get all of those plans taken care of and paid for prior to the 31st.
Right, and that's why it's important that the working group meet, early August, so that we can plan for that, spend the money, even there is money in the budget for this year, so, and we could buy,
Sure.
supplies
And
and
keep
just
in-
hold them.
Sure, and keep in mind, the work plan does account for that class. So even though you're planning that class in this fiscal year, because it won't be held until the next fiscal year, the FY18 budget does account for that. And so you could use funds from that FY18 budget to pay for that class as we've set aside, and that would certainly not be out of the norm. And so the money that we maybe have left in our fund balance currently, I would probably envision it needing to be used on a separate project. I think Nathan's project is a good candidate for something like that, but there are certainly many others that, as you kind of saw through the work plan, others that we could take on as well.
Right, some of those unfunded projects, we could possibly move into this fiscal year if we have extra money.
Right.
So as you're reviewing this work plan, if you have an idea for something that we could possibly use, and Mike, do we have a current balance, did you review what our current available balance was?
I did not include that in
Okay.
the packet for this meeting. I will have a full 6-month update at our next meeting.
Okay, that's fine. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other comments? Okay. With that, may I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor of adjournment, please raise your hand. Okay, that's unanimous. The meeting tonight has been adjourned. Thank you.